Welcome to the Flowering She Rose Budcast, a space for the divine feminine rising within each of us. My name is Anahita, and I'm here as your host, bridging plant and human consciousness. I love seeing women deepening into their intuitive nature and blossoming into the most creative, loving, and alive versions of themselves, and I believe that plants can guide us along the way. Together with the helping spirits of the plants, I've created this virtual garden for us to gather and talk about how we can find more magic in our daily lives as multidimensional human beings when we enter into relationship with the living world around us. Now let's tune in. I hope you enjoy today's show. Today I'm going to be sharing a conversation with Erika Joan about her healing journey with ayahuasca. I am a firm believer that all plants are entheogens and that even a cup of plain old herbal tea has the possibility to change your consciousness, and that teaching that is part of my mission on earth. And yet, this podcast series is going to start with some full-blown plant power. And I think at the end of these first episodes, no one will be left with a doubt about why this chick is talking about plants as powerful allies. Because when we think about plants that have the ability to kill us or to give us gateway opening psychedelic experiences, that's when we realize that they're freaking powerful. And this opening might help us open up to the idea that even our more common friends like rose and chamomile really do affect our consciousness as well. Today's medicine music is a song by Laura Lamb called The Pain Game. Laura is a musician, poet, artist, dancer, and writer based in the UK. Her debut album, Love Always Wins, is actually coming out today, the day that I'm recording this, July 9th, 2019. And over the last year, she has been on a radical healing journey following illness, which has led her down a yellow brick road of transformational experiences, including drinking the Amazonian jungle medicine ayahuasca 30 times. Laura has recorded her experience of healing in a beautiful hand-drawn record, an illustrated book called My Healing Diary, A Journey of Transformation with Ayahuasca, which I'll also link to in the show notes, as well as to her music. Erika and I will be speaking a lot about ayahuasca, and for those of you who aren't familiar with ayahuasca yet, I just wanted to give a brief explanation. Ayahuasca is an entheogenic brew made out of two main ingredients and various other ingredients depending on which shaman you're working with. The brew is used as a traditional spiritual medicine in ceremonies among the indigenous peoples of the Amazon basin. And even though Erika will be speaking about the plant spirit of ayahuasca, the two main plants involved are actually Banisteriopsis caapi, a vine, and Psychotria viridis, which contains the primary psychoactive known as DMT. Today's plant spirit transmission comes from Erika Joan. It'll be a guided meditation at the end of our conversation, so stay tuned for that, or skip to the end if you're doing the meditation at a different time. Erika is a conduit and channel for the mystical journey, working in co-creation with other practitioners, plant spirit medicine, and spirits for empowering the healer, teacher, and channel within others, forging into consciousness a cosmic level of community and connection on this earthly delight of existence for more joy, relational depth, bliss, and of course, love. Welcome, Erika Joan. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here. I feel honored.
Erika is actually a very good friend of mine, and we met 3 years ago through an online school that was a 3-month Reiki training. And since then, you have been on such an incredible healing path, also involving the plants. And I think your story is remarkable. I'm looking forward to hearing about that today.
Yeah, it's amazing to reflect back and think of where we started. I heard the term ascension buddies recently, and I thought, oh, that really applies to me and Anna. And, along with the Reiki was so much the plant spirits that also kind of catapulted me into much deeper healing.
3 years ago when we met, you had your first encounter with some really potent plant medicine. Would you like to share more about your story of healing from Lyme disease?
Yeah, I would love to. And, I refer to ayahuasca, which is what we're talking about here, as the mother of mothers, which a lot of people call her the grandmother plant. And to me, just on so many experiences I've had with her, feeling into that incredible, like deep, deep soul mother healing energy, it just makes so much sense to me. And just to give a little background, by the time I signed up for spirit school with you, I was pretty sick. I didn't realize until now, like, how sick I was. And I was so fatigued all the time, kind of always feeling like flu and all these other symptoms, and just kind of barely hanging on in my day to day. I remember like coming home to my kids and like barely making it through creating a dinner for them and just like putting us all to bed, like reading their stories. And sometimes I couldn't even do that. And so, looking back, I'm like, wow, like, how did I survive? Yeah. And so, I was in a psychology program at the time, and I did my psychopharm paper on ayahuasca. It was and then also our teacher had talked about using that medicine for her own healing. And so there was this like spark for me of interest of like, what is this? And then it's kind of how it works. Like once you hear of it once, it seems to just like pop in your field. Like if it's calling you, it's like seems pretty obvious to me, at least from what I've heard people talk about and from my own experience. And so I did kind of like the research on it as sort of like rebelling in my psychopharm class, not wanting to do like antidepressants or something like that. It didn't, those, it's like we know enough about that, and we know like their stats aren't that great. And so I was curious about something else. Something called me to researching that more, which eventually led me to very like synchronistically, someone was like, oh, I feel like sharing this temple space with you about this retreat. It all just kind of wove together. And I really look at that first ceremony as like the beginning of like deep healing for me.
And at the time of your first ceremony, you didn't even know that you had Lyme disease.
Correct. I had no idea what was going on, really. I knew I was really sick and, doing all the spiritual, like the daily meditation and the Reiki and everything. I mean, I remember conversations with you and like talking about like, what is wrong? What am I not doing? So that very first journey, it was a very physical journey. I had a lot of discomfort in my body. I felt paralyzed at one point in the journey. And what happened was in that journey and afterwards, it was like, it kind of like opened the door to discovering what was going on in my body on a more biological level with getting my diagnosis of Lyme disease.
Yeah, you were really catapulted into a healing crisis, one can say, right? When you went to hospital.
Yeah, it was like I had that journey with the medicine or the plant spirit, and basically what happened was my symptoms got really acute, really intense, really quickly right away. That probably would sound to some people like, oh, well, did the plant ceremony cause that? But to me, it was like, if I didn't have those symptoms, if my face didn't go paralyzed, like I was in such excruciating pain in my neck and all above my shoulders and head, like I don't think I would have gone to the hospital, and I could have, who knows how long I could have been sick. So launching into that crisis is actually what got me into a place where I could focus on what I needed to heal.
Right. And then in the course of a year, or maybe even less, you changed your life in so many ways. And eventually there was no trace of Lyme to be found anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically in the medical world, they can't like test that, but I know on a visceral level and on the way that I'm able to feel pretty much the healthiest I've ever felt my entire life, that I know it's not there. The journey itself made me realize relationships I had to end. It got me into a place where I did radically change a lot of things and really just 1,000% focused on healing, and continued some journeys with that particular plant spirit and other plants. More than anything, I'm in just so much reverence for what it's transformed in my life. And even speaking to Lyme as, to me, or any immune disorder, as being magnified when our energetic and emotional boundaries aren't in place. And so I feel like that was the aspect that ayahuasca played a role in, was healing the trauma and the emotional releases that I needed to have in order to realize that I needed to have those boundaries.
And of course, autoimmune diseases, all disease is multi-layered and more than just physical,
right,
and emotional and spiritual. Right. And so I think it's also important to note that in the course of your healing journey, it was more than just going to the ceremonies. It was the choices you made in your relationships, in your work life, and also physically for your health. Your yoga practice seems to be a really strong aspect in your life, from what I know.
Yeah, there's kind of like 4 big contenders, I would say, contributed to the really like the bulk of my healing. And I mean, there's tons, but, plant spirits is one of my top. I really believe ayahuasca allowed me the opening and the momentum to add the integration process that I needed to add, which is so beautiful you're bringing that up, because that is important. Like, we get kind of revealed and opened and healed, but really it's what you do after the ceremony that's quote unquote the work to be done. And then Reiki, yoga, those are some really big ones for me too, that were what I see a part of that integration work. And I witnessed this with other people in their healing process, like when they come to the plant spirits already doing the inner temple sweeping, they get so much more from that relationship. It takes a lot of courage to step into that initiation of awakening in itself. But it's even just as courageous to listen and follow up on the guidance that you receive from the plants.
The one difference being, though, that after your journeys, I remember you saying that you just felt like your cells had released weight. And so that's like an added layer that's almost like a miracle to me.
Me too. These are definitely gifts to humanity to really like open the door that needs to be opened. That level of plant spirits, it is spiritual warrior work. Like, it feels sometimes when you're in journeys or ceremonies, it's not, always unicorns and butterflies, even though you often get euphoria and you get those things, but it is at times very warrior-like work to step into that and to step into an initiation on that level. I think we're all capable, but I think that, there's a lot of conditioning and stories that lead us to believe we're not capable of those type of initiations.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note that it's not like one ceremony and it'll fix it all. Everything about our current medical system is about quick fixes. Take this pill and you'll feel better, without acknowledging that there's shadow work to be done, that there's emotions that want to be uncovered and felt, and trauma sometimes that needs to be looked at because it's stored in the cells to be released. And like you said, that's not all sunshine and peaches.
Yeah, and I will say, though, even in those more like, what some people refer to as dark journeys or dark spaces, sometimes that's really where you meet yourself, because we're so used to like avoiding those shadow aspects of ourselves with Band-Aids and with things that take it away, right? This is more like jumping into it and confronting, the deepest parts of yourself. I mean, I call it soul excavation in a way, or I guess you could refer to it as the soul retrieval too.
Baby, take me out of this game, 'cause all it does is cause me pain. Baby, take me out of this game. I can't do it again. Trials and tribulations, I got stuck in a sticky situation. I need change, I need innovation. So I took this broken heart, I took it apart, I laid it all out, went back to the start. I looked at the parts that were causing me pain. When I looked again, it was all in my brain. My mind, did you fool me again? I'm calling you out, call you out on your game. I've had enough, don't want more of the same. So I pull out my sword, with my sword you'll be slain. Cutting through the human illusion, dissolving the veils of delusion. Elevate above confusion. I've got the answer, I've got the solution. Baby, take me out of this game, 'cause all it does is cause me pain. Baby, take me out of this game. I can't do it again. Now the focus is on healing. The focus is on feeling my feelings. No more hiding or concealing. So I ripped off my mask, I ripped it off fast. When I looked behind them, boy did I gasp. So much trauma in every corner, all overgrown, flora and fauna. I take charge to restore the order. A new start reborn, a new Laura. New foundations pouring the mortar. Healed by the river, cooled by the water. I guess it's time that I jump in. It's about time I did something. I know that this ain't the done thing. Follow me, come on, come in. Baby, take me out of this game, 'cause all it does is cause me pain. Baby, take me out of this game. I can't do it again. Times are changing, I'm changing. I can't keep doing the same thing. My life needs rearranging. So I ripped out the weeds and I planted seeds. Said a prayer, asked to be free. Opened my eyes and started to see that the whole of creation is laughing with me. The whole of creation supports me. Mother Nature, she taught me. Pain serves a purpose, let be on the surface. I commit, dedicated to service. Life is my creation, a hologram, an animation, a game, a hallucination. Time to use imagination. Baby, take me out of this game, 'cause all it does is cause me pain. Baby, take me out of this game. I can't do it again. Baby, take me.
Just leading kind of back to my story, I was studying psychology and going into working with people with trauma, and ended up at a clinic that was using ketamine sort of as a catalyst for healing, which can do wonderful things, and I was witness to that, but kind of circled me back to the plants too. I was really curious about psychedelics in general, and the idea of exploring your consciousness as a modality for healing, and sort of dove in a little bit to the research that's been coming out of certain places for, eventually, hopefully, offering these substances in a way that's safe for people. This kind of led me into inquiry and working not just with ayahuasca, which mainly comes from Peru, but also working with psilocybin and other, what's referred to as entheogens along the way. And even before this, really connecting with the plants in a heightened way and choosing a plant each year to really sit with and learn from. Mugwort was kind of my first big commitment to that. And so not just embodying like this idea of maha of plants, but like really connecting with all the plant spirits.
And I love that mugwort was the first plant that came to you, because mugwort is known to be this gate opener and initiatory plant to bring people onto the plant path.
It is known as the initiation plant, especially in a lot of more Indo-European earth practices, which, now we know as Wiccan or whatever. So many synchronicities played out with mugwort. I had this whole journey with Persephone and, came to a cemetery where the mugwort was growing all in front of the cemetery. And what I learned from mugwort was that there's a subtlety to plants. Like if you go into the store, like, even the community markets with supplements, it seems to be like the Western way is like the more you can pack in a little capsule, the better. And for me, it was like nibbling on the leaves if I felt like that was calling me, or setting it by my bed and really interacting with the plant in a relational aspect, to receive not just like physical interactions, but actually, visions and meditations and even the plant spirit presenting itself to me in a certain way, was such a really like beautiful experience and just magnified my connection to this earth medicine. As a kid, a part of my trauma was pretty big neglect. So being left to myself a lot, and like there was always this underlying connection to the earth, and really the earth as sort of my mother that raised me. I always say that. It was where I found comfort, but I didn't like consciously realize the like relational piece that I was having with plants and animals during that time. It just was a part of me. As a kid, you just kind of accept things that they are.
And meanwhile, you're working with plant spirits and animal spirits in your own practice of Reiki. Just 3 years ago, we started on this path of energy medicine, and around the same time, we went on to Reiki level 2 and then completed our Reiki master. And I'd be curious to know how the plants have been a part of your path as a guide to others on the mystical journey.
It was on the Lionsgate portal of, I believe, last year. Yeah, I was at a sister circle, and it was a really important day as far as the energies of the sort of the ancient Egyptian practices. And so in that meditation, I was experiencing this really vivid, beautiful visual journey and visceral journey where I was interacting with what I now know as the Hathors, but I didn't realize it at that time. But these people who were so just connected through their love, it was like this idea that they didn't eat food or need to drink water because they just like fed on each other's connection. And during that meditation, which was without any literal plant spirits, it was just a circle led by a woman, a very powerful priestess, in Hathor and some of her main angelic dudes sort of approached me, and with them was this jaguar. It was this black jaguar, and it literally came up to me, and they came up to me, and they were like, and this was when I was really into like all the psychedelic medicines and researching them and going to conventions and stuff. But it came up to me and it said, you will be working with ayahuasca. It was like really clear. I was like, okay. At that time, I had no idea how that would play out, and continued to have these really big openings and meditative experiences with that particular energy source, and really coming to my own conclusion, which is of course my perspective, that this medicine potentially is a gift from these star beings to help wake up humanity, to help get us out of this war and rape consciousness that we're in, that we do actually, because of the layers of suffering that we're attached to, that we do actually need some of these bigger portals to healing, and that I think you can find your way in other ways, and there's other plant spirits that are helping me. For example, the rose medicine is really huge for me right now. But that these are also really big gateways that some of us need to, and some of us, I think, take these doorways so that we can also be in service to help other people, not necessarily go through the same doorway, but to help embody this level of healing and these level of frequencies, so that people can see that it's possible, that's medicine in itself.
Yes, your ascension, your healing is not only for yourself, but for the collective. And as you're raising your vibration, it ripples out. But I really love about the story of that journey that you went on the Lionsgate portal, which is around August 8th every year, is this connection between the higher dimensions and the earth. And as humans, we are this bridge between heaven and earth. And I see it in you, especially the way that you bridge the cosmic energies and Gaia consciousness and act as a stewardess, and really, a meeting point for both of them. And so this idea that this ancient plant medicine used by shamans in South America for such a long time is actually informed and connected to these star nations is just, I just see it as a line coming up from the cosmos, going through our central channel and through our root down into the earth, and it meets at our heart center, because so much of the evolution of humanity has to do with the heart. And as the more we grow in our heart, the more our other chakras can grow, because nothing can grow stronger than the heart. The heart is like our balancing center.
Absolutely. One of the things that I found, particularly with ayahuasca, is it is such a heart medicine, and my prayer, which just to speak to, since that Lionsgate portal, I have been led, not even by my own efforts or actions, time and again back to that place of, wanting to share the story of healing and wanting to connect with this healing plant spirit. And it's just unfolded in ways like nothing else in my life, with ease and grace and all of those things. And one of the things that is woven into what I offer is the rose medicine, which is also to me so much about the heart, the heart unfolding and opening, so that we can be more of ourselves and more aligned in that, center stargate that you're talking about. One of the things that I recently came to is like the biggest gift that this medicine gives is forgiveness. When we have to go confront these really awful parts of ourselves, which we all have. That's another thing that grandmother will share with you. Like, we are all flawed, every one of us. But finding the beauty in that connection, and also the forgiveness you can find, because we are on this human journey, and through our flaws we can connect and heal and forgive, not just other people, but ultimately ourselves. Usually even forgiveness for someone else comes back to forgiving ourselves, because often when we have a negative experience and we feel like we have to forgive someone else, we're actually usually blaming ourselves for being in that experience in the first place. And then when you access that level of forgiveness that's not just in the emotional plane, but it's also in your physical body. It's in your mental body and spiritual. When you can get to that deep place, there's so much more space to come back, through that door initiation and love more. Like, you have more space to love. Like, those hidden, places that we can't forgive of ourselves take up a lot of space.
What you're saying about forgiveness is reminding me of this little encounter that you and I had at a farmer's market in Sebastopol in California last summer. I think these kind of things only happen in California. There was this man who had probably 100 woven, kind of like a necklace that he was passing on as blessings. And I remember what he said was that humanity's real issue is that the heart is no longer in our heart center, but somewhere hovering above our heads. And so with his blessing, he set the intention for our hearts to be lowered and to enter back into our chest. And he put the bracelet around our wrists. And I remember him saying, putting it on your right wrist and saying a prayer for forgiveness, and putting it on my left wrist and talking about needing to learn about receptivity.
That's right.
and also, feeling the way the energy moved when somebody speaks a prayer, being reminded of the power of intention and prayer. And
yeah, I forgot about that. and I don't think I even knew what that meant at the time. So that's lovely to look back on that and reflect.
Yes, and I kept that bracelet on for so long, and eventually I think it did its job, and I think I buried it.
Yeah, I too, I kept it on for a very long time, and I don't remember if I gave it away either or did a ritual with it. I might have offered it to my sage plant. Actually, I visit often. And put offerings on there when I'm ready to let go of something. I put it there.
My place where I let go of things is the apple tree that I planted on top of my daughter's placenta. And I've done several rituals or despacho ceremonies where I've been letting go of things in my life and wrapping them up in a bundle, burying them underneath a tree, thanking the tree for taking all that my womb has had to offer back into the earth.
And that's so beautiful. And it speaks to, like, the plants are here to support us in so many ways, and the earth. And, she's willing to absorb these things so that they can transmute. And to me, like, the plants are the teachers. They're the gurus and the shamans. There's a lot of discussion on virtual platforms and in groups about how to best honor the plants. And I find sometimes people get into that sort of dualistic dichotomy of, like, who has the right to have relationship with the plants, especially certain bigger plant spirits. And it's interesting conversation, because my experience has always been, well, the plants are the ones that speak to me. And can we honor these really sacred traditions and these people carrying these plant spirits, but also listen to the call of what they're saying to each of us as well? Because if we all had relationships with them, we would have a different experience in this world.
Yeah, I think having relationships with plants is part of our original human nature. My guess is this issue comes up where you're talking about using the plants that are originating from a culture that your ancestors and you yourself don't have any connection with. Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, that is accurate. Yes. And I understand the wanting to protect that. And I think we need to respect and hold space for the wisdom that those cultures carry. Where these spirits are really needed is in the people that have lost connection to the earth and lost connection to themselves. And as we all know, that's kind of mostly in these Western worlds. It's just so important to me on an ethical standpoint that we acknowledge that every person has a right to healing. And that's what these plants are offering us.
Right. And it has to do with the way that you approach, especially these powerful psychedelic plants in ceremony rather than recreationally.
I mean, I'm an Aquarius, so I like to question the rules. It's not uncommon for someone to use a psychedelic recreationally and stumble into God consciousness. I do think the best case scenario is that we have these beautiful ceremony centers and retreat centers, but it gets tough for me because it's like, how are we to judge who's right for the medicine or not, right? If someone's called to it, even in not the best setting, as long as they're safe, that would always be important, but that they might stumble into something within themselves and then maybe go to the next level of how do we honor these things. So I'm not totally against that either.
That makes sense. It does. Yeah. And what a blessing to still have cultures on this earth that have this role of the medicine woman or the medicine man still intact. Because obviously,
absolutely.
I'm here in Germany recording this. My ancestors way back, I am sure the medicine women and men of that time, they knew plants that grow here locally that would allow them to reach altered states of consciousness, and fungi that would allow them to create this connection between this world and the other world. And so much of the wisdom of our ancient medicine women was eradicated and is just slowly being uncovered through direct revelations from the plants. We don't have many scriptures left. It is something I'm so curious about, and that we'll also be talking about in episodes to come. And in the meantime, it's just wonderful that we still have these other cultures that can give us access to these other realms so that we can access deeper healing and open ourselves up to the multiple dimensions. You were speaking about this vision of plant ambassadorship and have recently also created an organization.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's been coming and cultivating, and you always have to start kind of from the ground up. But yeah, my prayer is to connect people through the plants and Gaia consciousness. And right now that prayer is looking like retreats and co-creations. I'm partnering with an amazing man who studied in Peru, and our name, which also came in a channeled way, is AyaRose, and which would translate, I guess, to Aya is vine, because ayahuasca is vine of the soul, so vine of the rose. And that really speaks to promoting plants as sacred spirits and honoring the teachings that they have for us, and then moving into a place where we can connect other people to be ambassadors for the plants and the greater healing of us all, really.
Do you think that the medicine of ayahuasca is for everybody?
I think that if it's the time and place and calling for you, that it's pretty clear. A lot of people have ideas about this, like, maybe going through other passages with other plant spirits before getting there. But that being said, what I've witnessed in people in the healing of this particular plant spirit is just been so incredible, and just my own personal experience that, part of me wants to go, no, everybody should do this. But, not everyone has the same experiences in that place. And some people even show up and don't necessarily, feel anything per se. I still think it's working on a physical cellular level. And there's Amanda Fielding's research about how this plant spirit births new cell nuclei in your brain and all sorts of things. But, if it's the right time for someone, that they're going to know by connecting in their heart.
That is beautiful. Aya and the heart. And as you said earlier, trust that it's the plants that are calling you. So it's not just up to you, and it's not just up to your own judgment. If it's meant for you, then the consciousness of the plant will reach out to you. And you are the oracle for yourself. If your body responds with expansion, then something's for you. I for myself have not been in any ceremonies with ayahuasca as of yet, and the answer for me was always a very clear no. But I remember going to the public library 2 years ago and seeing an ethnobotanical book about ayahuasca and just knowing, okay, it's time for me to borrow that and read it. And it was really interesting getting into the culture and the biochemical way that this plant works, still feeling a clear no. And last year, I believe it was in September, I had my first dream where I heard the message from Grandmother Aya that now is the time, that now I'm ready to work with her. And since then I've dreamt, I would say it's not me who dreamt of her. I would say it's Grandmother Aya's consciousness who came into my dream 2 or 3 more times with this encouraging voice, or also offering me, just interesting dreams, interesting images. I feel like I've already been working with this plant here through the dream realm, and maybe not, it will actually happen in physical form. I'm just remembering one of my recent dreams where I dreamt that I was in ceremony with you, sipping Aya, and then I had to go to my elementary school, and I was actually flying by making swimming motions. And as I got closer to my elementary school, I was like, oh, wait a second, people are going to think that I'm onto something. They're going to be suspicious. They're going to think I'm weird. I better put my feet on the ground and walk like a normal person again. Reflecting on that dream, the meaning for me is our minds are like wands, and it's our decision whether we fly or walk through our lives, maybe because of fear of outshining others or being cast out. And we're really that free and that powerful. And in the end, it's your choice.
Totally. It's so beautifully put. I love your stories too. Yeah. And also I can't help but think of just the collective fears that are there about particular plant spirits. Really, the war in rape consciousness starts on the way that we have treated the plants and the earth and disregarded them as spirits and living things. And that, it's a valid fear because there is so much gray areas right now around legality, even though there is this crusade to really offer the substances for healing and spiritually. People are definitely working towards that, and it will happen, I believe.
And it just happened in Oakland, right?
Yeah, it just got decriminalized in Oakland, which is the city not basically enforcing upon that. It's not federally acknowledged yet, although because MDMA and psilocybin will probably be off of Schedule 1 in the near future, I think that will be the gateway to other plant spirits that are on there. And particularly ayahuasca is really vague because it's like, I think DMT is on Schedule 1, but the plant itself isn't. And there's all these ambiguities and stuff, there's a part of me that's like, our ethical, spiritual birthright is to have access to these earth medicines. And I love the term cerebral liberty or consciousness liberty, that it really should be a choice. And not to be made lightly by any means, and definitely, in safe settings with safe people.
And I think what's not allowed is the whole idea of medicine woman, medicine man, and there being an other world out there, like a more than visible realm. That's what's not allowed in society's current paradigm. And that's why there's so much fear around this realm that traditionally the priestesses, the seeresses, mainly women, right? This is the power of the feminine, we're able to access. So these ways have been suppressed and illegalized. And there's this fear that if you take your consciousness into the more than visible realm, especially riding on this powerful plant or fungi, that you might stay there and never come back,
Mm-hmm.
or that you might go into these deep, dark places and never return from them either. And so I see it as a fear of the shadow. And one thing that I learned on my one journey that I went on with psilocybin was that I was able to see dark images and access these dark parts of myself without losing connection to my core and my essence, and ultimately learning that there's nothing that I need to be afraid of inside of me.
And off of that, one of the things that I think of compared to, synthesized ketamine or LSD is that, to me, the plant spirits are protectors. And so while some of these other medicines can really open up, it feels like to me that with the plant spirits, they're guiding us and protecting us in those beyond places, in those multidimensional places. And to me, that's so relevant and important.
And if you extract one chemical compound from the plant, then you're kind of losing that connection to the wholeness, to the being, because we are so much more than the sum of our parts. And so are plants. Recently here in my hometown, connected with a person who was also on the spiritual path, and he was interested in talking about psychedelics. He actually offered me to smoke DMT, pure DMT, as a gift without any money in exchange. And it didn't feel like a yes to me. And I kept wondering why. And I asked him, where does this come from? And he said, oh, it's extruded from some type of a plant. I forget the name, but my friend in France does this. And I realized that it's because I'm no longer working with another being that I can go into relationship with. I'm only working with a substance, that it didn't feel right to me anymore. And I'm sure there's a time and place.
Yeah. And based on what you described, is like even if you get plant spirit substance from somebody, it usually, hopefully you're knowing who that person is, and because there's an energy in a relationship from when it sprouts, right? From when it's growing, and who's tending it. And then you add to that layer a whole laboratory setting. Like, you're adding more people's energy, and it's not, I don't think that's always a bad thing, but it is a thing that isn't often looked at or acknowledged. Of, even with our foods, it's like, of course, getting from your garden and interacting with your plants in a relational aspect is probably going to give you the most energetic resources you can get.
Absolutely. And in the process of making the product, I'd say the power of the medicine can be enhanced by the intention of the herbalist or the practitioner or the medicine woman or man. Looking forward, when you spoke about AyaRose, it really just gives me such sweetness inside of my heart. There's something special to this. And what I find so interesting is that this is a co-creation of yours with a male partner. And we've spoken before about the importance of bringing the divine feminine awakening and the divine masculine awakening together again.
Yeah, it's been wild. First of all, having two energies leading and guiding people through plant spirits, I think, is so beautiful, because it speaks to me of where we need to move to as a collective. As for me, about going from the individual healing to actually relational healing. And when this message of AyaRose came through, and the rose to me has such another story woven into my life. My grandma was, she was very repressed and very trapped as this woman who grew up in the 50s, but she grew these roses, like, I swear they were like bigger than my head. Like, I've never seen as big of roses since, she passed, but she would always be barefoot in her garden every day, like communicating, like literally talking to these roses. And, she was considered mentally ill and all these other things. But what I recognized was that she was a plant shaman. To me, in essence, and along with teachings from the Sophia Code that I've learned is like that heart rose energy is so powerful. And to me, it speaks to like all the things that my grandmother couldn't do because of this culture that was put on her. And so to me, it's almost like a liberation of the feminine, and that this person, Colin, who's working with me, embraced that, you know, and isn't afraid to have that in the medicine. And so to me, that in itself is incredibly healing and speaks to sort of the next level of how do we interact together in the masculine and feminine, which I'm really excited about. You know, there's so many threads that have led to this, and it feels like an arrival. And I think that's why it's kind of all unfolded, and working with spirit guides that have helped lead me here. It's phenomenal.
So true. And I'm just so excited and curious to see how this spiral rose will keep unfolding for you.
Yes. You know, to weave in these multi-layered plants, and how do they dance together, right? How does the mother of mother plants dance with roses, and how much heart healing can we get from that? And kind of the dance of it all, the cosmic dance.
Beautiful. Yeah, so AyaRose is just one of your most recent endeavors. You also work as an earth conduit. What kind of offerings do you have, and how can people find out more about you?
Through the earthconduit.com, you can find me, and I offer sessions, and then in the Bay Area, and mostly right now in West Marin and Fairfax, I'm doing various circles and sessions out of there, and also virtually, as well as some upcoming retreats of different kinds, and that you can find on ayarose.org. I'm noticing most my clients are, I believe everybody is a channel, a conduit to energy, the multiverse. We all have access to being guided, but people that are coming to me are channels, maybe wanting support with how to open that more.
Speaking about channeling, would you like to perhaps channel this dance of Aya and Rose that we were talking about, and give our listeners a transmission from the plant spirits?
Oh, I would love to.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. All right. So to receive this beautiful transmission, all that's asked of you is just to sit comfortably, to sink into your body. Begin to notice your body. It's always where I start with any guided journey. Just notice where it's at and start to be in contact with your whole self. And begin to take some really deep, intentional breaths into your body. Breathing deeper into the spaces that maybe are resisting more. As we do this, we begin to acknowledge the beauty and power of our body systems and connection to these cosmic downloads. And I just invite you to relax as much as you can, and to also be open as I'm speaking these words and sending this medicine over these beautiful electrical waves, to invite you to also connect with your higher self. And if any symbols or messages come through in this time, then that is you being open to your greatest power as well. I just invite you to listen to that as well. Continuing with our breaths, I want you to imagine a beautiful rose hovering over your head or your crown chakra. And this rose is starting as a beautiful bud. And we're going to imagine this rose unfurling and opening and letting in beautiful light and energy from the multiverse. Drawing in the power of our higher self and opening this space, and imagine this rose spinning and clearing anything that is in the way of you being able to open this crown chakra. Take some deep breaths as you imagine this light entering, opening you. And just imagining this rose drawing down the center line into your third eye chakra, the place of visions, and just imagining this rose again opening and spinning in the space. Bringing in beautiful heart rose medicine through all of your chakras. Clearing out anything that is preventing you from seeing your most truthful visions. Drawing that energy we already created from the crown chakra down and bringing this rose into your throat chakra. Clearing if you need to clear. Just imagining this beautiful rose opening in this powerful center, the center of creation. The place, the bridge from our inner visions, bringing them out into the outer world, into our words and vibrations. A place that's been really hurt over the years. Silence. So just imagine this rose sprinkling dewdrops and moistening this area, cleaning it, cleaning the wounds that might have been there at some point. Just take some deep breaths into this space. Drawing this rose now into your heart center, the stargate portal between your upper and lower chakras. Just taking some deep breaths into this area. Imagining these petals expanding in your heart space. Healing the relational wounds that might be there so that you can have more space for fresh relationships or renewed relationships. Just taking some extra moments in the heart space. Here feeling the energy and medicine of not just the rose, but the grandmothers and the grandmothers and the grandmothers and the mothers. And all they have carried for us to be able to build connection. That this divine mother energy is one of the great energies that comes from the beautiful plant ayahuasca. Just imagining this rose expanding even bigger. Rose of 1,000 petals, maybe. Anointing your heart space. Blessing your path of connection. And then bringing this beautiful rose medicine down into your solar plexus chakra, your place of will and power. Imagining this rose cleansing that space, activating your highest power, power that is meant for the good of others, the good of the earth. Imagining this rose spinning and clearing out any struggles that you've had with your power, struggles to manifest. And bringing that rose down into the sacral chakra, the juicy chakra, where we get our creative energy, our fire. Imagining an orange rose glowing, spinning and cleaning any feminine wounds or masculine wounds that have clung to this beautiful chakra. chakra feels like it needs a little extra love. So I'm just going to send some extra love through this rose medicine. And then drawing this beautiful rose down into the root chakra. The chakra that anchors all the other chakras and pulls the energy down through. Just imagining this rose, a red rose, deep, deep red, spinning and clearing, pulling out any sense of safety that we might have lost along the way. Breathing deep into that medicine. Allowing that energy to pull through and go out and back into the earth. And I just want you to take a minute with this transmission. I want you to ask your higher self and Gaia consciousness what plant you would like to work with or is best for you in this moment. And just whatever comes to mind, just hold on to that and go into your week thinking about this plant and how it might connect to you and bring healing. Just invite you to trust that whatever is present is there's a purpose for it. And if nothing comes to your mind, then I invite you to work with rose medicine to open up your heart to those visions and possibilities. And just taking a few more deep breaths. Maybe let out a sigh. And just thanking this session and space and transmission. Thanking the plant spirits. And just honoring this energy that in space we've created in this transmission. To bless you throughout the week and bring in plant spirit messages and animal messages and healing for you. And when you're ready, you can open and enter back into the conscious world where we can connect with Anna again.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Aya. Thank you, Erika.
Welcome. My pleasure.
It was beautiful, and I feel so deepened inside my body now that there's not many more words that want to come through. I just want to thank you for all of the wisdom that you shared and your personal healing story. I love you, sister.
I love you too. Yeah, thank you. It's such an honor to be a part of this and to see you unfold as well. With your voice and your creations.
Thank you.
Yeah.